This movie sucks. So I've made it no mystery that I adore the original Toy Story trilogy. They're some of the most charming films Pixar's ever produced. They tell compelling tales about the inevitabilities of existence and purpose despite starring child's playthings, and they take everything from character writing to visual storytelling to general innovation in the animation world to infinity and beyond. And then you got Lightyear, which according to most people, doesn't even go to infinity. At best, it's like to the grocery store and back home. Yeah, the majority of people that I've seen hated this movie. The box office numbers are tanking by the day, with viewer reactions ranging from mild indifference to visceral disgust. Heck, some are even labeling it as the lowest low that Pixar has ever reached. Yeah, as in worse than the movie about spy cars, and worse than the movie about what goes in them. So needless to say, I was a little nervous when I finally sat down to watch it for myself. And in the end, survey says, it's pretty good. It's got some signature Pixar emotional beats that I thought were impactful, some fantastic voice performances, particularly from Keke Palmer, some standout scenes of sight and sound that just scream, "Watch this in theaters for the full experience!" And while the side characters aren't super developed and lean a little bit into Big Hero 6 territory, they've got their own shining moments and bits of comedy that I thought made them pretty enjoyable. And yeah, I know I'm preaching to the crowd of millions, but I fell in love with Socks the first moment I saw him. I'm sorry, it's a big-eyed robot cat that skitters around and curls up next to you. I'm weak, okay? He's not as amazing as a certain marshmallow nurse from Disney's catalog, but he's extremely precious, and if he was real, I would have taken a page out of Izzy's book and given him all the pets. Obviously, there are a lot of logical fallacies as well as character and lore inconsistencies that I could point out as a Toy Story fan and, well, just a person that uses their brain. Like, why would a ship's fuel source exploding nearby propel a ship in a certain direction instead of, you know, blowing up the ship as well? Or why would a therapy cat like Socks come equipped with gadgets like laser eyes, a manual override, and a freaking flamethrower? But hey, I only saw the movie once, so maybe I could explain some of these away if I got to watch it again. Maybe Socks' flamethrower is used to make some Ned Flanders hot chocolate for patients, I don't know. Overall, I enjoyed the movie as a fun little space romp and even an emotional heavy hitter at times. And while it's got no shortage of problems that would probably take like an hour or two to explain, I definitely enjoyed it on my first watch. And hey, at least it's light years better than Toy Story 4, so it'll always have that under its utility belt. With all that said though, there are two major aspects of Lightyear that stood out as off to me, and that's the visual style and the tone. To give you some backstory real quick, it was stated by the film's director, Angus MacLane, that Lightyear was meant to be a trilogy of live-action movies released in the late 70s, early 80s that Andy watched on VHS and quickly grew attached to. They're pretty much meant to be this universe's version of the original Star Wars trilogy. In fact, straight from the horse's mouth, Lightyear is the movie that Andy saw that changed his life. Andy's Star Wars, a sci-fi epic designed to inspire a new generation. It's not exactly consistent with what was already established in the Toy Story canon, but on paper, it sounds fine. An old school in-universe movie inspired by the charm of the OG Star Wars films. Great. But I gotta ask, and maybe I'm alone on this, does this movie scream Buzz Lightyear or Star Wars to anybody? For me, not even close. When I think Star Wars, I think multiple exotic locations and planets, varied species of aliens and alien creatures, unique bits of mythos and pseudo-religions like the Force and everything surrounding it, and bits of 70s cheese and camp that might seem a little dated nowadays but are very synonymous with the series. Lightyear doesn't have any of that. No interesting space mythos, no unique systems or beliefs, and no variety in species aside from just humans and robots mostly. We only get 2 locations and neither one of them really give you much to look at. Just a generic space vessel and an extremely bland looking home planet. Now I get that this place is supposed to be kinda desolate, barren, and empty feeling, but you can still make it look interesting. Heck, the majority of Star Wars A New Hope, which this movie is supposed to be similar to, takes place on a barren, lifeless desert planet. But certain things like the use of bold colors to make the visuals pop, unique tidbits like the double suns, the building designs, and some unique alien creatures really help to give this place an identity. The most that this planet has is generic vines and generic bugs, which just aren't that interesting. Also, a funny side note, if this movie is supposed to be made in the 70s or 80s, then this is some of the best looking CGI or practical effects I've ever seen. Like, you look at some of the iconic scenes from New Hope, like Obi-Wan's duel with Vader or the Rebel attack on the first Death Star, nothing like that even comes close to what's on display in Lightyear. You guys are gonna win all the visual Oscars when the 80s award season comes around. But it's not just the visuals, the tone feels very off as well. While it's obviously intended to be sci-fi, Lightyear gives off the vibe that it was meant to be grounded in some form of reality, with the gritty tone and almost believable science. Heck, some people have even said that the method by which lightspeed travel works in this movie is actually grounded in some real facts. But then you get these really goofy leaps in logic that kind of clash with the realistic feel, and the whole movie just comes off like it doesn't know what it wants to be, a realistic feeling sci-fi movie or a campy space adventure. You can't have it both ways. Meanwhile, Star Wars has a lot of bizarre moments that you could easily question, but the lighter tone and more fun atmosphere makes you feel a lot more forgiving of the out there moments, since it's obvious that they were going more for fantasy than realism. Again, I understand if I'm alone on this one, but for a movie that was supposed to inspire a new generation, I just don't see much that's inspired about this movie. It's mostly just stale, lifeless, and contradictory when it comes to presentation, and aside from the iconic suit and constant nostalgic callbacks, none of this really feels like Buzz Lightyear either. Not the character, not the personality, not the aesthetics, nothing. Personally, if you want my take, I think this movie could have benefited from better use of the 3 C's: color, camp, and creativity. Adding more color could have painted a more vibrant, memorable image in the viewer's mind instead of just being gray and brown looking sludge, and it would have been more in line with the colorful presentation that the original toy and its world gave off. Adding more camp would have made for a more fun and exciting ride, and it could have made audiences more forgiving of the really out there leaps in logic. And adding more creativity, like cooler tech, well-designed creatures, and generally more unique stuff, could have given the film a greater identity and made the world surrounding the characters more immersive. I really wish we could have gotten a Buzz Lightyear origin movie or even a series like that. Oh wait, I don't have to wish, because it already exists. Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, the Disney property that Disney hates the most. No Disney Plus release, no Disneyland rep, just a massive black hole that the show can get sucked into. Okay, I know it's not confirmed that Disney hates the show and the lack of rep is probably because the distribution rights are shared with Viacom, but it's a real shame that the show doesn't have more notoriety in the world of Disney. Heck, when Angus MacLane was asked about Star Command and how it fits in with his new movie continuity-wise, he actually said verbatim that he didn't even consider it when he was making the movie. He didn't even make an attempt to include the original canonical origin of Buzz Lightyear in his little Andy sci-fi fascination timeline. That should tell you all you need to know about how much people care about this show. But in spite of Disney's mistreatment of the show and movie, they actually still end up being more memorable than Lightyear. Look what we have here. Interesting creature designs, unique and varied locales, individual species with memorable mythos and beliefs, plenty of over-the-top fun adventurous moments with a campy tone to back them up. Now this feels like something imaginative that could have inspired a generation, similar to the original Star Wars films that MacLane was so inspired by. The writing and the story aren't mind-blowing or anything, and it does have the budget of a used tissue. Duh. But the imagination is there in spades. Personally, this feels like a book that Lightyear should have taken a page out of, and it could have been more memorable as a result. And for those that are wondering, but what if they want to tell a more serious and nuanced story like they did in Lightyear? They can't do that if things are too goofy. Well, believe it or not, there are actually a lot of Star Command episodes that are able to tell serious and complex stories in spite of the show's campy tone. You've got The Slayer, where a mechanical vampire sucks the energy from helpless robots, and an orphaned human girl who used to have robot parents is forced to survive on the streets in a dark, unforgiving world. And she's even forced to gaze upon the equivalent of her parents' corpses at one point. Like, jeez. Or Shiv Katal, which involves the strongest of Zurg's henchmen being on the prowl to recapture one of his escaped minions, but it actually turns out to be Buzz in disguise who secretly helps Zurg's workers quit their jobs peacefully. Yeah, a nuanced view on villain henchmen that paints them as overworked individuals under the iron fist of an abusive employer, showing that just because you're forced to work for the enemy doesn't mean that you yourself are evil. Now you can't look at stories like that and tell me that more serious and complex tales can't work in a world like this. Heck, even Buzz's reasoning for not wanting to work with a team of rookies was done better in Star Command. Oh yeah, the Star Command movie, The Adventure Begins, it actually involves the exact same character flaw that Buzz had in the Lightyear movie. But in this case, Buzz doesn't want to work with a team because his best friend and partner actually died while they were on a mission together, and he refuses to allow any rookies to be put in a similar type of danger because of the survivor guilt he feels. Meanwhile, Lightyear's reason for Buzz disliking rookies and teamwork is kind of confusing. Like, at first he says that the rookies are just annoying yes men that get on his nerves and overcomplicate things, which is kind of jerkish, but alright. But then later on he reveals that he used to be an underskilled rookie himself and probably would have quit the program if not for his best friend's encouragement. So if he knows what it's like to be an underskilled rookie, wouldn't that drive him to be a little more understanding of a newcomer's slip-ups? Wouldn't he want to be understanding and motivating like his best friend before him? I don't know, it just seems like the direct-to-video spin-off had a better handle on Buzz's character than the movie did. I'm not saying that Lightyear should have been a point-for-point recreation of Star Command, though in some cases you can argue that it kind of is, and I'm also not saying that Lightyear is a bad movie, because like I said before, I did enjoy it. But if it borrowed a few bells and whistles from this spin-off, I think it could have turned out pretty awesome. Like imagine Star Command's creativity and tone, but with Lightyear's budget. Now that sounds like a movie that really could have gone to infinity and beyond, if you catch my cold. I don't know, this was mostly just a brain fart from a guy who saw the movie one time, so maybe my attitudes will change when I watch it again on Disney+. But overall, what do you guys think? Would you say that Lightyear could benefit from a little bit of the 3 C's, or did you enjoy the movie as is? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I hope to see you all real soon.